Listen carefully, because what I'm about to tell you might save your life, or at least your sanity. If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, if you've ever been treated like you don't exist while watching others get praised for simply breathing, then this story is for you. But I need you to do something for me first. If this resonates with you, if you feel that twist in your gut that says this is me, then please, like this video, leave a comment about your own experience, and share it with someone who needs to hear that they're not alone. Because that's what saved me, knowing I wasn't alone. My name is Renee, and for 22 years, I literally didn't exist in my family's history. Not metaphorically, literally. Every family photo I was in was destroyed. Every achievement erased. Every memory rewritten. My narcissistic grandmother made sure of that. But what she didn't know was that while she was busy erasing me from the past, I was quietly building evidence that would destroy her future. The first time I realized something was deeply wrong, I was 7 years old. It was Thanksgiving 2008 in Montgomery, Alabama, and my grandmother, whom everyone called Duchess because she insisted on it, was showing off the new family photo wall she'd created in her mansion's grand hallway. 37 professionally framed photographs chronicling 4 generations of our family's legacy, as she called it. I searched every photo. My cousins were there. My siblings. Even my younger brother who'd been born just 6 months earlier. But me? I was nowhere. Not in a single frame. "Grandma Duchess," I said, tugging at her silk dress, "where am I?" She looked down at me with those cold gray eyes that could freeze hell itself and said, loud enough for all 43 family members present to hear, "Why would you be there, dear? This wall is for family members who matter." The room went silent. My mother stood frozen, holding a glass of wine that trembled in her hand. My father stared at his shoes. Not one person said a word. That was the beginning of my erasure. The narcissistic parent rules with an iron fist. They have absolute power and there's a strict pecking order. In this hierarchy, the narcissistic parent is a law unto themselves. In our family, Duchess wasn't just the matriarch, she was the sun around which we all orbited, whether we wanted to or not. By the time I turned 10, the pattern was clear. Family reunions? I was sent to eat in the kitchen with the help while my siblings and cousins dined in the formal dining room. Christmas mornings? My presents, if I got any, were generic gift cards purchased by her assistant, while my golden child cousin Brittany received jewelry, designer clothes, and once, an actual pony. School achievements meant nothing. I made straight A's, won the state science fair, and was voted student council president. Duchess's response? Anyone can do well in public school. Brittany goes to private school, where it actually matters. Brittany, by the way, was barely passing her classes. According to counseling psychologist Dr. Cocker, people seek attention for various reasons, driven by unmet past emotional needs, low self-esteem, or, in extreme cases, personality disorders. I became exactly what Duchess turned me into, desperate for validation from anyone who would give it. Teachers, friends, parents, strangers on the internet, I needed someone, anyone, to tell me I existed, that I mattered. The systematic destruction of my identity went beyond emotional abuse. When I turned 13, I discovered Duchess had been telling extended family members and family friends that I was troubled, mentally unstable, and prone to lying for attention. She'd created an entire narrative where I was the problem child who couldn't be trusted. Narcissistic grandparents ignore family values and rules, control with money, gifts, dinners, vacations, memberships, etc., and control with promises and threats around inheritance. This was Duchess's playbook exactly. She controlled the entire family's financial future, or at least, she made us believe she did. Her fortune was legendary in Montgomery. The Beaumont Family Trust, established by my great-grandfather who'd made millions in real estate during the 1960s boom, was worth an estimated $50 million. Duchess controlled it all, and she never let anyone forget it. Remember, she'd say at every family gathering, always loud enough for everyone to hear, "Those who disappoint me get nothing." And some of you, her eyes would always find me, have already disappointed me beyond redemption. The inheritance game was psychological torture. Narcissists use money and property as forms of control. They always bring up the will. They love talking about how much money you're going to get or how the money is going to be divided. They dangle the money carrot to keep you under their thumb. The A-grade supply they get when bringing up their funeral plans is too intoxicating to resist. Every family member danced to her tune. When she decided Uncle Robert's new wife wasn't worthy of the Beaumont name, the entire family cut them off. When she declared that Cousin Michael's career in social work was embarrassing to the family legacy, everyone pressured him to quit and join the family business. But me? I was the permanent scapegoat. The one who could never do right, no matter what. The Christmas of 2016 was particularly cruel. Duchess had commissioned a professional photographer to take a massive family portrait for her 75th birthday invitation. 68 family members gathered in her ballroom, dressed in coordinated burgundy and gold. When I arrived, her assistant Patricia stopped me at the door. "You're not on the list for the photo." "That's impossible," I said. "I'm her grandchild." Patricia looked uncomfortable. Mrs. Beaumont was very specific. "You're to wait in the library until the photography session is complete." I spent 3 hours in that library, listening to laughter and directions from the photographer through the walls. When I finally emerged, Duchess walked past me and said, just loud enough for others to hear, "Oh, Renee, I didn't know you were here. You should have said something, we could have had you help with the catering." My teenage years blurred together in a haze of exclusion and gaslighting. Family vacations to Europe? Everyone went except me. I was told there wasn't room, despite them booking an entire floor of hotels. My high school graduation? Duchess scheduled a mandatory family meeting the same day, then publicly berated my parents for choosing to attend my graduation instead. The Reddit community for Raised by Narcissists at https://www.reddit.com/r/raised-by-narcissists became my lifeline during those dark years. Reading stories from others who understood what it was like to be erased, to be the family scapegoat, kept me from believing I was crazy. Because that's what narcissistic abuse does, it makes you question your own reality. When everyone around you pretends the abuse isn't happening, when they all participate in your erasure to stay in the narcissist's good graces, you start to wonder if maybe you really are the problem. Narcissists lack empathy and do not follow basic rules of fairness and reciprocity in their relationships. To support their persona of superiority and entitlement, narcissistic parents use predatory tactics to win in their ceaseless game of controlling and besting others. Like a nail gun on rapid fire, narcissistic parents are hurt machines, creating havoc and damage in the lives of their children. Everything changed the summer I turned 22. I was working at a coffee shop in downtown Montgomery, barely making ends meet, when an elderly man became a regular customer. His name was William Chen, and he always ordered the same thing, medium dark roast, no sugar, splash of cream. We started talking during slow afternoons. William was a retired forensic accountant who'd worked for the FBI for 30 years. He had a sharp mind and an even sharper sense of humor. More importantly, he had no connection to Montgomery's social elite and no idea who the Beaumont family was. "You remind me of my daughter," he said one day. "Same determined look in your eyes, even when life's beating you down." I laughed bitterly. "I don't feel very determined. I feel invisible." "Invisible people see everything," William replied. "That's their superpower." That conversation changed my life. William became my mentor, though neither of us called it that at first. He'd come in during my shifts, and we'd talk about everything, life, dreams, and eventually, my family's situation. He was the first person who didn't try to minimize what was happening or tell me to just ignore it or be the bigger person. "This is abuse," he said simply one day after I'd told him about another family event I'd been excluded from. "And from what you're describing, it sounds like there might be more going on than just emotional abuse." "What do you mean?" William leaned forward. "In my experience, when someone is this obsessed with control, especially financial control, they're usually hiding something. Has anyone ever actually seen proof of this family trust?" I hadn't thought about it before, but no. Duchess talked about the money constantly, changed her will threats weekly, but no one had ever actually seen documentation. "Would you like me to teach you some things?" William asked. "About following paper trails, understanding financial documents, recognizing fraud patterns?" That's how my education began. For 2 years, William taught me everything he knew. How to read complex financial statements. How to spot inconsistencies. How to research public records. How to document everything meticulously. "Evidence is your weapon," he'd say. "But patience is your shield. Never strike until you have everything you need." During this time, I also built my own support network, what Duchess never knew existed. Besides William, there was Dr. Sarah Martinez, a therapist who specialized in narcissistic abuse recovery. She'd reached out after seeing one of my posts in an online support group and offered pro bono sessions. A 2016 study suggests that emotional validation from mothers, especially in childhood, builds emotional awareness. When a child grows up not feeling valued or receiving praise or encouragement, they may have trouble regulating their emotions. Dr. Martinez helped me understand that my desperate need for validation wasn't weakness, it was a survival mechanism. Then there was Marcus Thompson, a civil rights attorney who'd overheard Duchess berating me at a charity function. He'd slipped me his card with a note, "No one deserves this. Call if you need help." And surprisingly, there was Patricia, Duchess's assistant. She'd worked for my grandmother for 15 years and had seen everything. One day, after a particularly cruel incident where Duchess had literally torn up a birthday card I'd made for her in front of the entire family, Patricia pulled me aside. "I can't say much," she whispered, "but start looking into the Beaumont Trust. Specifically, look into when it was last audited." That was all she said, but it was enough. I spent months researching, using the skills William had taught me. Public records, tax filings, property deeds. The Beaumont Family Trust was mentioned everywhere, but the actual documentation was strangely sparse. Then I found it. Or rather, I found what wasn't there. The original Beaumont Trust, established by my great-grandfather, had been dissolved in 2003. Duchess had liquidated everything and put it into various investments and offshore accounts, all in her name only. The trust she'd been threatening everyone with for 20 years? It didn't exist. But that wasn't the biggest discovery. William helped me trace the money movements, and what we found was staggering. Duchess had been siphoning money from other family members for years. Power of attorney abuse with elderly relatives. Forged signatures on property transfers. Credit cards opened in grandchildren's names. Insurance policies where she'd named herself beneficiary without the insured's knowledge. "This is massive fraud," William said, looking at the evidence we've compiled. "She's stolen at least $2.3 million over the past 2 decades. From her own family? Especially from her own family. They trusted her." The evidence was overwhelming, but I needed more. I needed proof that would be undeniable, even to family members who'd been trained to look the other way. That's when Patricia took the biggest risk of her life. "I've been documenting everything," she told me during a secret meeting at a diner outside town. "Every cruel comment, every financial transaction, every forged document. I have recordings, emails, physical evidence. I've been building this file for 5 years, waiting for someone strong enough to use it." "Why me?" I asked. "Because you're the only one she can't control anymore. She's already erased you, you have nothing left to lose." Patricia was right. In a family system, the collective strain of the malignant narcissist's need for a victim gets relieved when a single person is selected. The other members can breathe a sigh of relief and join the malignant narcissist in blaming the selected child for all the family's unhappiness. But what happens when the scapegoat stops playing their role? The file Patricia gave me was extensive. Audio recordings of Duchess admitting to fraud. Emails where she discussed hiding assets. Photos of forged documents. A ledger where she kept track of what she'd stolen from whom, like some kind of twisted trophy list. But the most damaging thing? A video from 3 years ago. Duchess was drunk at a family gathering, boasting to her society friends about how she'd trained the family like dogs and how she could destroy any of them with a single word. She went into detail about the psychological games she played, the financial crimes she'd committed, and how stupid everyone was for believing her. And then she said something that made my blood run cold. "That pathetic grandchild of mine, Renee? I destroyed that child from birth. Made sure everyone knew they were worthless. It's been my greatest accomplishment, taking a bright, talented child and reducing them to nothing. They actually think there's something wrong with them." She laughed. "The others are all so scared of ending up like Renee that they'll do anything I say. Fear is the ultimate control." Patricia had recorded the entire thing. Now I had power. Real power. The question was, how would I use it? The Beaumont Foundation Gala was the social event of the year in Montgomery. Every April, Duchess hosted 300 of the city's elite at the Grand Riverfront Ballroom to celebrate the family's philanthropic legacy. The bitter irony, of course, was that the foundation was mostly a tax shelter that did minimal actual charity work. The 2025 gala was special. It was Duchess's 80th birthday celebration combined with the foundation's 30th anniversary. She'd been planning it for 2 years. The governor would be there. The mayor. CEOs, judges, old money families. The Montgomery Chronicle would cover it. The local TV stations would broadcast segments. It was perfect. 2 weeks before the gala, Duchess did something that pushed me past my breaking point. She didn't just hurt me, she went after someone innocent. My girlfriend, Alex, was everything Duchess hated. She was from a working-class family, had tattoos, worked as a social worker with at-risk youth, and worst of all in Duchess's eyes, she loved me. We'd been together for a year, and Alex had been my rock through everything. Duchess found out about our relationship through social media stalking. Her response was swift and cruel. First, she had her connections get Alex fired from her job, spreading rumors that she was inappropriate with clients. Then she had her lawyer send Alex a cease and desist letter, claiming Alex was stalking and harassing the Beaumont family and threatening legal action if she didn't leave Montgomery immediately. But the worst part? Duchess sent photos to Alex's conservative parents, photos she'd had doctored to look compromising, along with a letter detailing false allegations about their daughter's dangerous lifestyle. Alex's parents disowned her. She lost her job, her family, and her reputation in a single week. "I'm so sorry," Alex sobbed in my arms. "I can't do this anymore." She wins. I have to leave. Watching the person I loved be destroyed simply for the crime of caring about me, that was when I decided Duchess had to fall. Not just be exposed, but completely and utterly destroyed. I called my support team. William, Dr. Martinez, Marcus the attorney, and Patricia. We met at William's house to plan. "The gala is our opportunity," I said. "Maximum exposure, all her victims in one room, media coverage. We end this publicly." Marcus reviewed the legal implications. "With this evidence, she's looking at serious federal charges. Wire fraud, mail fraud, identity theft, forgery. She'll die in prison." "Good," I said, and I meant it. The plan was intricate. Patricia would ensure I was added to the gala's vendor list as part of the AV team, invisible servants Duchess would never notice. William would coordinate with his former FBI colleagues who'd been building their own case after I tipped them off. Marcus would have papers ready to serve. Dr. Martinez would be on standby for the family members who would need immediate psychological support when their world imploded. But I had my own addition to the plan. Something personal. The Florida Theater in downtown Jacksonville has hosted music legends, but Montgomery's Grand Riverfront Ballroom had hosted its share of dramatic moments too. None would compare to what was about to happen. The week before the gala, I did something I'd never done before. I reached out to other family scapegoats. Duchess had destroyed many lives over the decades, and I found them. Uncle Thomas, disowned in 1998 for marrying outside his race. Cousin Jennifer, exiled for coming out as lesbian. Aunt Marie, cast off for refusing to put Duchess on her company's board. "She's going down," I told each of them. "Do you want to be there to see it?" Every single one said yes. The night before the gala, I couldn't sleep. 22 years of pain, humiliation, and erasure had led to this moment. I thought about the 7-year-old me, searching desperately for my face in those family photos. I thought about every birthday forgotten, every achievement dismissed, every moment of existence denied. Tomorrow, I whispered to Alex over the phone. She'd moved to Atlanta but was supporting me from afar. Tomorrow, I stopped being invisible. The morning of April 15, 2025, I woke up at 4 a.m. The gala didn't start until 7 p.m., but I had extensive preparations to make. Every detail had to be perfect. There would be no second chances. William had connected me with his former colleague, Special Agent Diana Foster from the FBI's White-Collar Crime Division. She'd been investigating Duchess for 6 months based on our initial tips, but she needed more concrete evidence for arrests. "We'll have agents positioned around the ballroom," Agent Foster told me during our final planning meeting. "Once you present the evidence publicly, we'll move in. But Renee, I need you to understand, once this starts, there's no stopping it. Your entire family's dirty laundry will be exposed." "They stood by while she erased me from existence," I replied. "They made their choice." The technical setup was crucial. As part of the AV team, I had access to the ballroom's entire media system. The plan was to hijack the presentation scheduled for 8:30 p.m., a tribute video to Duchess's lifetime of philanthropy that Patricia had been forced to create. I had prepared my own video. 3 years of evidence condensed into a devastating 12-minute presentation that would destroy Duchess's carefully crafted image forever. Patricia had done her part perfectly. She'd submitted falsified vendor paperwork that got me cleared as Ryan Ellis, an AV technician from a legitimate company. She'd also ensured Duchess would be at the podium when the video played, giving her surprise tribute speech to the assembled crowd. She's been practicing that speech for 6 months, Patricia told me. She'll be so focused on her grand moment that she won't notice anything until it's too late. Marcus had assembled a team of attorneys ready to serve papers the moment the evidence was revealed. Cease and desist orders, asset freezes, civil lawsuits, Duchess would be legally cornered from every angle. But the most satisfying preparation was personal. I had contacted the Montgomery Chronicle's investigative reporter, James Harrison, who'd been suspicious of the Beaumont Foundation's finances for years. If you want the story of the century, I told him, be at the gala with your best photographer. Sit near the stage. And whatever happens, don't stop recording. I also reached out to someone unexpected, Brittany, the golden child cousin who'd received everything while I got nothing. She was miserable, I'd learned through careful observation. The pressure of being Duchess's favorite had destroyed her mental health. She was addicted to prescription pills, in an abusive marriage Duchess had arranged for family connections, and desperately unhappy. I know we've never been close, I told her carefully, but something's going to happen at the gala that will change everything. When it does, you'll have a choice, stand with her or break free. I just wanted you to know you have options. Brittany was quiet for a long moment. Then, she destroyed you to control me, didn't she? Made you the cautionary tale of what happens when we don't obey. Yes. I'm sorry, Renee. For all of it. You can apologize after she falls. The afternoon of the gala, I arrived at the Grand Riverfront Ballroom at 3 p.m. with the legitimate AV crew. The space was magnificent, crystal chandeliers, marble floors, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Alabama River. Round tables for 10 with gold Chiavari chairs, elaborate floral centerpieces worth more than most people's monthly rent. Duchess was there, of course, micromanaging every detail. She walked past me 3 times without recognition. Patricia had been right, servants were invisible to her unless she needed something. You there, she snapped at me during her 4th pass. Make sure the spotlight hits the podium at exactly the right angle. This has to be perfect. Yes, ma'am, I replied, keeping my voice steady. It will be unforgettable. By 6 p.m., guests began arriving. Montgomery's elite in their designer gowns and custom tuxedos. I watched from the AV booth as my family entered. My parents, looking older and more defeated than I remembered. My siblings, trailing behind Duchess like well-trained pets. The extended family, each playing their assigned role in Duchess's performance. The exiled family members I'd invited arrived separately, each having purchased tickets through third parties. Uncle Thomas, now a successful entrepreneur, walked in with quiet dignity. Jennifer, a doctor now, held her wife's hand despite knowing the gossip it would cause. Aunt Marie entered alone but stood tall. They all knew to sit at table 27, in the back corner. The unimportant table Duchess had designated for +1s and obligation invites. At 7:15, Duchess made her grand entrance. Wearing a $50,000 custom Oscar de la Renta gown and the Beaumont family diamonds, she looked every inch the society matriarch she pretended to be. The crowd applauded as she worked the room, air-kissing and fake laughing, playing the beneficent grandmother to perfection. I watched from above and felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, just cold determination. The 7-year-old child who desperately wanted her love was gone. In their place stood someone who understood that justice and revenge are sometimes the same thing. At 8:25, Patricia gave me the signal. Duchess was preparing to take the stage for her tribute. The lights dimmed. The spotlight hit the podium. 300 of Montgomery's most influential people turned their attention to the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, the MC announced, please welcome our honoree, Mrs. Eugenia Beaumont, as we present a special tribute to her remarkable life and legacy. Duchess glided to the podium, basking in the applause. The screen behind her lit up with the title slide, Eugenia Beaumont, A Life of Service. I took a breath, placed my finger on the mouse, and clicked. The title slide flickered and changed, Eugenia Beaumont, A Life of Lies. The ballroom fell silent as the new title blazed across the screen. Duchess turned, confused, her perfectly painted smile faltering. Before she could speak, the video began. It opened with her own words, the drunk recording from 3 years ago. I destroyed that child from birth. Made sure everyone knew they were worthless. It's been my greatest accomplishment. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Duchess lunged for the microphone. Technical difficulties. Someone turn this off. But I had disabled her mic. The video continued. Financial documents filled the screen. Bank statements. Forged signatures highlighted in red. A step-by-step breakdown of how she'd stolen $2.3 million from her own family. William's forensic analysis was brilliant, clear, undeniable, impossible to refute. This is lies. Duchess shrieked, but without the microphone, only those nearest could hear her. The video transitioned to Patricia's recordings. Duchess admitting to destroying Uncle Thomas's first business because he forgot his place. Laughing about how she'd planted drugs in Jennifer's car to get her arrested when she first came out. Describing how she'd had Aunt Marie's husband deported on false charges. The crowd was frozen. Some filmed with their phones. James Harrison, the reporter, was frantically taking notes while his photographer captured every moment. Then came my section. Photos of family events with me carefully edited out. The original photos Patricia had saved, showing me there, followed by the edited versions Duchess displayed. A montage of report cards, awards, achievements, all hidden or destroyed. My college acceptance letter to Yale that Duchess had intercepted and declined on my behalf without telling me. For 22 years, my recorded voice narrated, Eugenia Beaumont systematically erased me from existence. But I wasn't the only one. The screen showed other victims. Employees she'd wrongfully terminated. Charities she'd defrauded. Business partners she'd destroyed. Each with evidence, documentation, proof. Duchess tried to run, but found FBI agents blocking the exits. The reality of her situation was sinking in. The video reached its climax, a recorded phone call from last week where Duchess, not knowing she was being recorded, outlined her plan to murder her brother Edward for his inheritance. She detailed the poison she'd purchased, how she'd make it look like a heart attack, how she'd already begun small doses to establish a pattern of illness. The ballroom erupted. Edward, who'd been sitting at the head table, stood up, his face white with shock and rage. You were poisoning me? The video ended with a simple message, the Beaumont family trust was dissolved in 2003. The inheritance you've been threatened with for 20 years doesn't exist. You've been controlled with a lie. The lights came up. I descended from the AV booth, no longer invisible. The crowd parted as I walked toward the stage where Duchess stood frozen, her empire crumbling in real time. Hello, grandmother, I said, my voice carrying through the silent ballroom. I'm Renee. You might not remember me, you've spent so long pretending I don't exist. But I remember everything. Agent Foster stepped forward, badge visible. Eugenia Beaumont, you're under arrest for wire fraud, mail fraud, identity theft, attempted murder, and conspiracy to commit murder. As they cuffed her, Duchess's mask finally, completely shattered. The elegant society matron disappeared, replaced by something feral and vicious. You ungrateful little bastard, she screamed at me. I made this family. I gave you all everything. You're nothing without me. Nothing. You're right, I said calmly. I am nothing to you. I've always been nothing to you. But that nothing just destroyed everything you built on lies. The family stood frozen, processing the truth. My mother was crying. My father looked hollow. My siblings seemed lost. But at table 27, the exiled family members stood and began slow clapping. Uncle Thomas. Jennifer. Aunt Marie. One by one, others joined them. Staff members she'd abused. Business partners she'd cheated. Even Brittany, the golden child, stood and applauded. Patricia walked over and handed me a box. Your grandmother had these destroyed, but I saved them. Inside were hundreds of photos, me as a baby, a toddler, a child, a teenager. All the memories she'd tried to erase. You existed, Patricia said quietly. You always existed. And you matter. As the FBI led Duchess away, she turned back one last time. Her eyes met mine, and for the first time in my life, I saw fear in them. Fear of me. The invisible grandchild she'd tried to erase had become her worst nightmare, visible, validated, and victorious. The local news had arrived, alerted by the commotion. Reporters surrounded me, asking for statements. I gave them one sentence: no one has the right to erase another person's existence. But the revenge wasn't complete. Not yet. Within an hour, the video from the gala was uploaded to social media. Someone, I never found out who, had live-streamed the entire event. The hashtag Beaumont scandal began trending. By midnight, it had been viewed 3 million times. By morning, it was international news. Southern Society matriarch arrested in shocking fraud scandal. Grandmother's systematic abuse exposed at birthday gala. The invisible grandchild who brought down an empire. The speed of Duchess's downfall was breathtaking. Within 48 hours, all her society memberships were revoked. The Beaumont Foundation board voted to dissolve the organization. Her country club banned her for life, while she was still in federal custody. The city of Montgomery removed her name from the community center she'd donated to, with stolen money, as it turned out. Her portrait was removed from the Montgomery Museum of Fine Arts. The legal consequences were severe. The attempted murder charge alone carried a potential life sentence. The fraud charges added up to 240 years. At 80 years old, Duchess would never see freedom again. But it was the social destruction that hurt her most. The Montgomery Chronicle published a devastating exposé based on James Harrison's investigation, revealing decades of abuse, manipulation, and crime. Former victims came forward with their own stories. The paper ran a special series, The Victims of Eugenia Beaumont, featuring 37 people whose lives she'd destroyed. My story particularly resonated. Messages poured in from around the world: other scapegoat children, other invisible family members, other victims of narcissistic abuse. The video hit 38 million views in a week. Forums like r/raised by narcissists, r/narcissistic abuse, r/narcissistic spouses, and r/life after narcissism have over 750,000 users combined, and my story was shared across all of them. People found hope in seeing a narcissist finally face consequences. The family imploded. Without Duchess's iron control, and without the fictional inheritance to fight over, they had to face who they really were. Some revelations were devastating. My father admitted he'd known about the abuse but was too cowardly to stop it. She threatened to destroy my business, he said, as if that excused watching his child be erased. My mother had been sedating herself with pills for years to cope with the guilt. She checked into rehab the day after the gala. My golden child brother Connor had developed severe anxiety from the pressure of being the good one. He attempted suicide a week after Duchess's arrest and was hospitalized. My sister Emma, who'd always been neutral, admitted she'd been sexually abused by one of Duchess's society friends, abuse Duchess knew about and covered up to protect her reputation. The extended family was no better. Cousins admitted to bullying me on Duchess's orders. Aunts and uncles confessed to standing by while I was abused because they wanted inheritance money that never existed. But there were surprises too. Brittany, the former golden child, used her trust fund, from her late father, not Duchess, to pay for therapy for all the grandchildren. "We're all damaged," she said. "Maybe we can heal together." Uncle Thomas, Jennifer, and Aunt Marie, the exiled ones, formed a support group for family scapegoats. They invited me to join. For the first time in my life, I had family who actually saw me. Patricia testified against Duchess in exchange for immunity. Her testimony was damning: 20 years of witnessed abuse, documented fraud, and enabled cruelty. But she also testified about her own fear, how Duchess had threatened her family, how trapped she'd felt. I didn't forgive her, but I understood. The financial recovery was complex. The $2.3 million Duchess had stolen was partially recovered from her accounts. The victims received some compensation, though not nearly enough to make up for what they'd lost. I received $127,000, money she'd stolen from accounts my parents had set up for me. But the real value was in what couldn't be measured in dollars. The truth was out. The abuse was acknowledged. The invisible had been seen. A month after her arrest, I visited Duchess in federal detention. She was being held without bail, deemed a flight risk with her offshore accounts. Orange jumpsuit instead of designer clothes. No makeup to hide behind. She looked small, old, and pathetic. "Why?" she asked when she saw me. "Why did you destroy me?" I laughed, actually laughed. I didn't destroy you. You destroyed yourself. I just made sure everyone saw it. I gave you life, she spat. I'm your grandmother. No, I corrected. You gave me existence, then spent 22 years trying to take it away. But I survived. Despite everything you did, I survived. The family is ruined because of you. The family was already ruined. I just revealed it. She leaned forward, her eyes venomous. You'll end up alone. No one loves a victim who fights back. You'll see. I stood to leave. I'd rather be alone and free than surrounded by people who would watch me be erased. Goodbye, Eugenia. I never called her Duchess or grandmother again. She was just Eugenia now, a criminal in a cage. 6 months after the gala, my life was unrecognizable. The viral attention had died down, but the changes were permanent and profound. I'd moved out of Montgomery to Jacksonville, Florida, needing distance from the scene of so much trauma. Jacksonville is famous for its urban park system spanning 80,000 acres, from cozy city parks to lush arboretums. You'll also find white sandy beaches far less crowded than other Florida cities. It was the perfect place to start over, far enough from Alabama to breathe, close enough to the ocean to feel free. Alex joined me there. Our relationship, tested by Duchess's cruelty, had emerged stronger. You stood up to her, Alex said. You didn't let her win. How could I not love someone that brave? We got a small apartment near the beach. Nothing fancy, but it was ours. No one could take it away. No one could erase us from it. The money from the settlement, combined with a GoFundMe that supporters had started, raising $89,000, gave me enough to finally pursue my dreams. At 24, I enrolled in law school, determined to become an advocate for abuse victims. My essay about overcoming systematic erasure got me a full scholarship to the University of Florida. But the biggest change was internal. Addressing excessive validation seeking begins with developing a healthier sense of self. Cognitive behavioral therapy helps individuals identify and challenge negative thought patterns while gradually building self-reliance. Through CBT, you can learn to recognize that your worth is not dependent on the opinions of others. Dr. Martinez continued our sessions via video call. You're not seeking validation anymore, she observed during one session. You're validating yourself. She was right. For the first time in my life, I didn't need others to tell me I mattered. I knew I did. William, my mentor, visited monthly. We'd have coffee, medium dark roast, no sugar, splash of cream, and discuss my cases. He'd officially retired but couldn't resist helping me understand complex financial crimes. You know what you did was extraordinary, right? He said during one visit. Most people never escape. Even fewer fight back. Almost none win. I had help, I reminded him. You had to be brave enough to accept help. That's different. The family gradually found their own paths to healing. Some relationships were irreparable, my parents and I maintained minimal contact, the weight of their complicity too heavy to fully forgive. But others surprised me. Emma, my sister, had started therapy and was confronting not just Duchess's abuse but the sexual assault she'd suffered. She called me weekly, and slowly, we built the sibling relationship we'd never been allowed to have. Connor, after his suicide attempt, had found purpose in mental health advocacy. He started a support group for golden children, those who'd been weaponized by narcissistic parents against their siblings. I was her weapon against you, he admitted. I see that now. I'm so sorry. Even some of the extended family reached out, genuinely remorseful. Not all, some still blamed me for destroying the family name. But enough to show that people can change when the toxic influence is removed. Brittany and I became unexpected friends. Both of us damaged in different ways by the same woman, we understood each other's pain. She was divorcing the husband Duchess had chosen for her, pursuing her own dreams of becoming a teacher. She stole different things from us, Brittany said one day. Your existence, my autonomy. But we're both free now. The exiled family members, Uncle Thomas, Jennifer, Aunt Marie, became my chosen family. We had monthly dinners, celebrating birthdays and achievements that had been ignored for years. They showed me what family could be when not poisoned by narcissistic control. With narcissists, the only love is from children to the parent/grandparent, there is no sincere reciprocation. Narcissists are incapable of true connection, they cannot comprehend unconditional love. But we were capable of it. We loved each other not for what we could provide or how we could be used, but simply for who we were. A year after the gala, I was invited to speak at a conference on narcissistic abuse. Standing before an audience of 500 survivors, therapists, and advocates, I told my story in full. The response was overwhelming: standing ovation, tears, and hundreds of people sharing their own stories of erasure and survival. Disability is our revenge, I told them. Every time we refuse to be erased, every time we speak our truth, every time we validate our own existence, we defeat them. The speech was posted online and viewed over 2 million times. I received thousands of messages from people who'd found strength in my story. Some were planning their own escapes. Others were gathering evidence. Many were simply finding the courage to say, "This happened to me, and it was wrong." I started a nonprofit, the Visible Project, dedicated to helping scapegoated and erased family members document abuse and access resources. Patricia, seeking redemption, became our first major donor and volunteer. Her insider knowledge of how narcissistic families operate was invaluable. The legal case against Eugenia proceeded slowly but inevitably. She was convicted on all charges. Attempted murder, 25 years. Wire fraud, 20 years per count, 5 counts. Identity theft, 15 years per count, 8 counts. Conspiracy, 10 years. Total, 255 years. At 81, she would die in prison. The sentencing judge, after reviewing the evidence, made a remarkable statement. "In my 30 years on the bench, I have rarely seen such calculated, systematic cruelty. Mrs. Beaumont didn't just commit financial crimes, she committed existential violence against her own grandchild. She attempted to erase a human being from existence while enriching herself through fraud. This court sentences her to spend her remaining years contemplating the evil she perpetrated." Eugenia showed no remorse. Even facing life in prison, she maintained she was the victim. The local news showed her being led away in shackles, still demanding people address her as Mrs. Beaumont instead of her inmate number. I didn't watch. I was at the beach with Alex, feeling the sun on my face, existing fully and completely for the first time in my life. I'm writing this from my office at Chen & Associates, the law firm I founded with Williams' backing. We specialize in financial crimes within families, the intersection of abuse and fraud that I know too well. My law degree hangs on the wall, next to a photo Patricia saved of 7-year-old me, smiling and visible. We've handled 47 cases in our first year. Each one a family destroyed by narcissistic control. Each one a chance to make the invisible visible again. Alex and I got married last summer in a small ceremony on Jacksonville Beach. The exiled family members were there, my chosen family who saw me when no one else would. Dr. Martinez officiated, she got ordained online just for us. William walked me down the aisle. My biological parents weren't invited. Some wounds don't heal, and that's okay. Forgiveness isn't required for moving forward. Connor was there, though, healthy and pursuing his doctorate in psychology. Emma came with her partner, finally free to love who she chose. Brittany was my maid of honor, the golden child and the scapegoat, united in survival. The wedding photos hang in our home. Every single one includes me, visible and present and real. Eugenia is still alive, I'm told. Still in federal prison. Still maintaining her innocence. Still alone. I don't think about her much anymore. She's become what she tried to make me: erased, irrelevant, invisible. But occasionally, when I'm working late on a case, I remember that 7-year-old searching for their face in family photos. I remember the pain of being erased, the desperate need for validation, the years of invisible existence. And then I look at my life now, the thriving practice, the loving marriage, the chosen family, the 2.3 million people who've watched my story and found hope in it, and I realize something profound. She tried to erase me, but instead, she created me. Every cruel act, every moment of erasure, every attempt to make me nothing, it all forged me into someone who could destroy her empire with truth. The ultimate revenge isn't just survival. It's becoming everything they said you could never be. My name is Renee Chen. I took William's last name with his permission. He said I was the child he never had. I am 27 years old. I exist. I matter. I am visible. And I am free. If you're watching this and you see yourself in my story, if you're the scapegoat, the erased one, the invisible child, I need you to know something: you exist. You matter. Your pain is real, and what's happening to you is not your fault. Document everything. Build your support network outside the family. Plan your escape carefully. And when the time is right, make yourself visible in a way they can never erase again. You don't owe your abusers forgiveness. You don't owe them silence. You don't owe them protection from the consequences of their actions. You owe yourself freedom. The top post on r/life after narcissism features an inspirational quote: "Don't let getting lonely make you reconnect with toxic people. You shouldn't drink poison just because you're thirsty. Remember that when they try to pull you back in. Remember that when flying monkeys tell you to be the bigger person or keep the peace. Remember that when you're lonely and tempted to accept crumbs of affection from people who watched you suffer." If this story resonated with you, please share it. Someone in your life might need to hear it. Someone might be gathering the courage to become visible. Someone might be planning their own revenge against erasure. And to those still trapped, still invisible, still suffering, your time will come. Document everything. Build your strength. Wait for your moment. And when it arrives, don't hesitate. Make them see you.